I'm your host, Eddie Fischer. So today, normally we'd be starting off with kind of a little script of what we're doing and what we're going through. We'll probably have a couple of cigars, maybe some whiskey or wine going when I have some guests. But this is a podcast that's going to talk about doing business in San Antonio. What do you do? How did you get there? Where did you come from? And what was your journey like? I'm going to kind of go a little in depth over myself today, just because this is an intro to Alamo City Ambitions of who I am. And I think the first episode should probably just be just a little bit of that, as all future casts will be about my guests and our guests and who's going to be on. And I'm excited for that. This has been in the making for quite a while now. We're excited to be here at this point. I have guests lined up that are ready to come on and talk, and let's get them going. And so everybody just keeps asking, hey, when is it? When are we going to do this? Are you getting mobile? Man, I'm getting a lot of stuff set up and just getting this thing moving. So here we are, finally going somewhere. Exactly here today. Just so much fun. Whether you're here for the camaraderie, the insights, or you just want to relax and have a good time and listen to see how maybe we can help you. So once again, today is the episode about just what I did, how I got here, what I'm doing, what I've done, and maybe this kind of stuff helps you to maneuver through your life and maybe gives you ideas of maybe what you want to look for, or maybe you're trying to make a change in your career. And we're just going to kind of go through that. And it's like I said, this will probably be the only time it'll ever be just myself. We're definitely set up for at least 4 guests, myself and 3 others. So if it comes to that point, just know that I can accommodate you. And if you have a team you want to come on, I'd love to have you just get in touch with me. My email address is alamocitya@outlook.com. Our YouTube channel is Alamo City Ambitions, and we are on Apple Podcasts under Alamo City Ambitions. And as we get going a little further, we'll start creating content in different areas. But for now, that's where you can find us as we just kind of get up and moving. So I was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. Born in 1971, kind of, had a good time, and as a kid, as a child. I was very fortunate. And I think we all were growing up in that time. I think a lot of us just either took it for granted or didn't. But I think during those times, there were a lot of my growing up that mended me into what I was going to do and who I am. So from a young age, I was in a Catholic military school from kindergarten on up. So I went to Master Electrician, and I met a bunch of cool dudes there. I mean, you can think that we were probably 8 boys to a class, maybe 10 boys at a class, and we didn't really move classes. Teachers and the nuns came to us. So every time, if you moved a classroom, you were moving to another grade. So kindergarten, first, second, and third were on the bottom floor. And then on the second story, which was your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. And of course, the chapel was on the second floor. And third floor was library. So the lab was down in the back. You had to kind of walk through a little area and get to the lab. And then we had the snake pit, what we called the snake pit, that would take you to the car line. Of course, where, you'd get picked up and dropped off in the mornings and picked up in the afternoons. Going through Mount Sacred Heart, what was it like going through that? Man, a lot of it was it was badass. And then other times it was a pain in the ass. You think of us, man, we're just kids, and we're polishing our brass and shining our shoes and getting ready for inspections. And, we had mass that we had to attend. And other than that, we were basically learning every bit of an educational foundation that you were doing in a public school, except we were more of a military driven school at that time. So we had to, try to get little kindergartners to try to march. I mean, you could have just imagined that, some of them had their thumb in their mouth, and, some are just dragging their feet, and you're trying to left, right, and you're going right, left. And then, try to pick up your step and get back in rhythm. You probably didn't happen until like 2nd grade, because by 3rd grade, you were already getting your right jackets and you're moving through pretty much all that stuff. But, we were still just a group of kids, some that are no longer here with us today, and some that have been with us and still here today. And some I still see on an occasion basis, right? I mean, a lot of them went to Central Catholic, a lot of them went to Antonian, and, I was going into Central, and then my dad said, we're moving to Bernie. So that little time that went into that was short-lived, and I mean short-lived. So going into Bernie, as my dad was running for sheriff during that time, and he didn't have enough time, wasn't going to be driving me to San Antonio for that. So I went to Bernie. And growing up in Bernie was kind of a wild thing. But before I get to that, even doing that part, while I was in Mount Sacred Heart, I grew up with my mom and my grandparents. I lived on the south side of San Antonio. I lived off of Theo Malone. And so during those times, going to school, I was getting dropped off, and then my grandfather Valdez was picking me up. And so, or somebody was picking me up. Sometimes it would be my two little aunts, Hortense and Evangeline, who were my dad's aunts, and they would pick us up, my sister and myself, because my sister went to the girls' school. And after picking us up, they would like take us at McDonald's right there on San Pedro, and they would, get us a little snack and a food, and driving this, oh my God, I can't remember what car that is. I just know it was green, some green, ugly car with the plastic things on the seats, those things you used to try to pop. And it wasn't those, it was just that hard plastic shit that they wanted to protect. Anyway, so they would pick us up, and then they would take me back to my grandparents' house on the south side. And that's where I lived, and I grew up. And during that time, I made a small stint at Gravener. I made a small stint at Lowell. Then I went back to Mount Sacred Heart. Then I went to St. Anthony's for a little bit, and then I went back to Mount Sacred Heart. So either way it went, I came in and out of Mount, and I wanted to try something different, but I wanted to go back to Mount Sacred Heart. So I went back to Mount, and that's kind of where I almost finished there. And then just kind of things just started moving through. But a lot of my time was with my grandparents, my grandfather Valdez, which, he was I guess you could consider him the man of the family who just kind of fixed everything. He was the fix it. And for anybody in the family, whether it was the Lopez's, whether it was, the Valdez or whoever it was, anybody needed something fixed around the neighborhood or whatever, my grandfather was that guy. So I went with him, and he'd throw my ass up in the attic, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I was the smallest one to get up there, and went that. So it's kind of started out me kind of doing stuff like that, helping him around and doing things, and, kind of just figuring shit out. But I really didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. And then I decided to go and live with my dad. So I look back now, it's probably one of the hardest things I did, because, I left my grandparents who I was living with, and I was with them, and my mom lived kind of in the house, one of the houses behind us or next to us. I think lived in every one of them, because my grandparents had this little side block of properties, and it was kind of like on the corner. So it was this house, this house, this house, this house. And then, so it was kind of just like that. Anyways, so when I decided to leave and go live with my dad, I didn't know how much that was going to pain my grandmother. I think it devastated her. Right? And I look back and I'm so sorry for that. But I went to go move in with my dad, and we lived in like Leon Valley, and we lived in over there on Bandera and Mainland, or not Mainland, but across from Mainland. And then we lived in French Creek, and then we lived some other little area like by Marshall, a new subdivision that was being built in those days. And so we kind of like just bounced around. My dad had started, well, he'd retired as a federal marshal, right? He was in law enforcement. He came out of Vietnam. He was blown out of a Jeep. He had to go through some severe operations in the 70s, 69 to 70s. And I was born in 71, like I said. So when he got through that in those days, it was kind of a painstaking area. So, and I felt like, just wanted to move in with him. And since my parents got divorced when I was 3, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to give it a whirl. So leaving to go move in with him and kind of like growing up over there was kind of different, but I experienced different things. I got to experience different things from what he wanted to do and how he was going to raise me at this point. So I got a good idea of what it was like with him as he was trying to be an entrepreneur coming out, like I said, as a federal marshal. He opened up a car cleaning business with $100. He just bought like some product, and he started detailing cars. We were in the 80s. He was detailing cars for $180 a car. Now, come on, I was pretty jacked up. Right now you can go through the wash tub and get it done for $35, and you're not getting it detailed, but you just going through it. And we were doing this for vehicles like crazy in the warehouse, and then that flourished, and he called that. It was named Sunshine Auto Cleaners, right there on Bandera and Mainland. And then he got an idea that he was going to open up a paint and body shop. You don't know anything about a paint and body shop, so I don't understand how that's going to work. I don't have to know about it. I need to hire the right people to do that. So with that in mind, he kind of just did that. And I think that was a lot of how that operated and where he was trying to get to that point. And how did I know where that was going to take us or what he was trying to do? I was just still a young kid, 5th grade, maybe 6th grade, somewhere in there. So I started up working with him, or he had me working for him, detailing cars, but he was also selling cars. So then we had Fischer Auto Sales, and he kind of just picked that up, and he rolled with it, and he had a knack for it. He knew how to do it and what to do. So I was very able to watch him work. Like watching him work was genius. And then as we moved into Bernie, and then, we went to a county fair, and I think I've told the story a couple hundred times or what, but He gave me a box of pencils and he told me to go sell these pencils and don't come back until I had the money for it. Now, at a Kendall County fair, I'm going around trying to sell pencils to people who were there to drink and have a good time. And they didn't want to see no little kid trying to sell them a pencil. But I knew that my dad, it would be pissed if I came back with nothing. It was like, no way. Well, I had to come, and I couldn't just throw them away. I couldn't just trash them. How was I going to get the money for them? I needed to show the money. I mean, he was going to fact check me. Yeah, I just went through it. It took me until I had to learn a little like opening routine, right? I had to have an elevator speech. I had to get told no. I got rejected like crazy. And then I just came up with something and started bullshitting my way through it. And man, before you knew it, within the next hour, I think I had them all gone. And I was like, okay, well, I can go back to my dad. And I was proud. I did that. Fine. Later in life, I realize how important that little step was going to be. You know, and as that time ran through, you know, I worked at a junior food mart in Bernie, and I was across from the Dodge dealership. There, I mean, I had to make chicken because it was inside a gas station, and then they had a Fargo's pizza in the back, so I had to do the pizza and the chicken. So I'd have to get there in the morning, start up on all the biscuits, get those things prepped and ready so I can have them all made, and then throw them in the oven when I needed them, and then start battering the chicken and getting all this whole like tubs of chicken battered and ready to go so that could be dropped in. And when I say batter, you have to throw it through the flour, throw it through the crumbs, get it all ready, you know, and have it in bats so that you could pick it up and drop it in the fry. And then go over here, somebody, hey, I want a fajita pizza, you know, whatever. Oh, that was my favorite thing from Fargo's, right? And so I was doing all this shit, and I'm like, God, this is a freaking lot, man. I don't like this. But I did it. It was my way of making money, and that's where I stayed. And I was definitely like, anybody knows when you're in fast food or you're talking with people a lot and you're getting them to do it. It wasn't really a sales thing because people were coming to you. But doing that, you know, I didn't have that fear of talking to anybody. I wasn't scared of you know, that interaction. So then Dairy Queen came into Bernie, and man, we thought we were big shit then. I was like, we're getting a Dairy Queen. Now we're moving up in the world. Like Dairy Queen's coming to Bernie. Life is going to be great. And then Walmart was coming. Oh man, what did you know about that? So I got on the opening crew of Dairy Queen, and we had Dairy Queen start up. So I quit that place and went to Dairy Queen and started, man, you talk about busy. Like everybody in town was waiting for this thing to open. And that first day was a monster. And so I worked with a lot of people there and kind of went through that motion and, you know, just did that. And then around that time, a little shortly after that, that's when I got the word that my grandmother had passed away in Rome. And she had always said she either wanted a Cadillac or she wanted to go to Rome. And since my grandfather didn't fly, she went by herself to go meet my aunt, which is her oldest daughter, in Germany. And so when she did all that, she went up there. I think at that point, she kind of knew she was sick, but I don't think she knew how bad it was, or she knew it was pretty bad, but she was going anyways. So she went up there, and during that time, it was in September, and I knew her birthday was, so I had done all this thing, and I got her a card, and I sent it to Germany, sent it to my aunt and her. They were within a couple of weeks of each other. They had in the same month, which is her older daughter. So I sent both of them at the same time to the same address to my aunt's house, and my aunt got hers. And so when I got that, I figured, okay, you know, she had gotten it. Well, then of course, you know, we got the word that she had passed away, and it just like tore the family apart. It was the hardest thing. Oh my gosh. I immediately had, all of a sudden I got a call that my cousins were coming to get me, which like my brothers, Chuck and I are 19 days apart. You know, Eddie and I are a couple of years apart. Marco and I are like 3 years apart. So, you know, we have this thing of what we were doing together. And so they didn't let me down. They came up and they got me. I packed up some of my stuff, clothes and whatnot, and then went back to the south side of San Antonio. So I left Bernie for the last time. And when I got to San Antonio, it was just, I knew I could just see it on my grandfather's face. And I was like, I'm never leaving here again. I'm not leaving him. So I ended up making that phone call and telling my dad, I'm not coming back. I'll come up and get all my shit. And it wasn't that easy because he was not having it. He was not happy about that. He was not happy about me going back, but I didn't have any other choice. I was going back. So that I decided, went to San Antonio, and then finished out my last year at Burbank High School. And then, talking about changing life just changed from like that. Bernie was Bernie, but when I got to Burbank, like I could just feel it. Like I just felt everything change. Myself change. I felt just, it was crazy. You know, you had your little cliques in Bernie and everything, and it was kind of I mean, I wasn't from there, so I knew some of the people, but I wasn't like, I had some friends there. I had some really good friends there, but it just wasn't the same. Because when I got into San Antonio, I was like, oh, okay. And so I started just clicking and having friends, more friends and family. And we were, doing things, going out and stuff and having a great time. But I think that really changed another part of me. And then when I went to graduate, grandfather was making sure he was that guy for me, right? He was my leader. And he tells me, he's like, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you do in life. If you get a trade, you'll never go hungry and you'll never go broke. What trade am I going to get? I don't know how to do anything. I'm like, what am I going to do? So I don't know. I kind of like just didn't know much what I was going to do. So I got a job. Actually, my mom found this job opening in River Center Mall for Seafood Stop. And they were opening a store. Their brand new open up in the River Center Mall in the food court. Well, okay, I can do that. How hard can that be? So I went in and applied with Mike Long and went through that. I got hired there. I was on a Dairy Queen opening crew. So I got all trained out. They're like, great, man, that's good because we're going to be going through an opening and we need to be training. And that was funny how fast I rose to that because I became an assistant manager there pretty fast, or lead, right? And then assistant. I was there for a few years. And then growing up in your high school, because I was on the half day program. So going to work and going to school, going to work, going to school. I mean, I would get into school. I really only had to take one class. I'd done everything else. And all I had to do was take home ec, or I took home ec and art, I think was what I took. So the first semester was home ec. And then the second semester was art, which I had Mr. Luna and can't remember her name for home ec, but anyways, whatever. So after that, I think I took one more class, but I don't remember what it was. By 9:30, I was already walking home. And people sometimes were just going to school at 9:30 and they're like, dude, where are you going? They're like, school's that way. I'm like, party's that way. Well, not really party because I had to go home and change. And then I would go to work at River Center Mall. So I was on the half day. And so, once I get through that and graduated and I'm still working at Seafood Stop, and then I said, this can't be my life. There's no way. And I really wanted to go to USAA. That was the biggest thing here in town. And okay, how do I get there? How am I going to get in that place? Of course, I did the thing like everybody else did. I applied for low level positions too, mailroom or whatever I could find. And I got a letter. Thanks, but no thanks. And so somehow I met this girl in the mall, and I can't remember her name for the life of me, but that doesn't matter because that didn't go anywhere. She said her mom we were talking, she goes, well, my mom works in USA and she works in employment. She works in HR. I'm like, really? She goes, yes. She said, when you drop me off, I'll introduce you to her. You can meet her. I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. Yeah, I'll do that. So I went inside and I talked to her mom and I told her, and her mom was kind of impressed. And I'm like, you're young to want to do this. So I really want to try to plan for my future. And I'm thinking USA will be the way I should go because I don't know what I'm going to do. I wasn't going to college. I wasn't pushed into college. I didn't have that. Nobody was saying, you need to go to school. You need to go do that. Because if I wanted to, I really wanted to go to A&M where everybody else went. Chuck, Eddie, Mark, and, Victor, still Jeannie. So everybody went there. And I was like, man, that's where I want to go. I want to go there. And I didn't. I just went to work. And so I went to her and she got me in for another application. And I don't know, a week later, and they're like, okay, they sent me information in mail. We didn't have email. Here's a letter came through the mail. Be here, go take a drug test, take a physical, and be at orientation. I was like, holy shit, I got in at USA. What do you know? I couldn't believe it. And now I'm making like $16 an hour or some stupid shit like that. I don't know. It was crazy, but it was good cash for a kid, I'm like, great. And I had benefits, which I had no idea what benefits were or whatever that was. And I was delivering mail, and I was like the Michael J. Fox guy in the movie, right? Where you're pushing the cart through all the offices and you're dropping mail and you're picking mail up. And I drove a little electric car in the hallway of USAA, and it wasn't bad. And then you had a box that came to you on the floors, and you opened this closet and there was a box because it was on rails, and you pulled all this mail out and you sorted it in whoever offices that you had to drop off mail to. And then you would put that in your push cart and you would take it on that floor and you would go drop it off at all the little desks who had a mail slot. And same thing in return. You'd have to go and pick up mail. You dropped it off and you picked it up because they had outgoing mail. So it was kind of one of those things that happened. Sorry about that. Time to feed the dogs. So we kind of like just went off on that, and a lot of that just happened. And so when that came about, I was already at USA and I was like, this is not bad. I was there for a couple of years and I was like, oh my God, this really isn't going well. I mean, it was cool, making good money, doing what I think. From there I went in through it. I started in Telelift, which is the mail room, and I met great people there. I still got friends I see today there. Still talk to them. Some of them on Facebook and some of them are around. Augie. I met Augie in the mailroom. And I see him all the time. And we used to joke all the time being in that place. And, you look at that guy, he took off like a freaking rocket and did good things here in San Antonio. So, and coming up of what we were doing, once again, I had ambitions. I had things I wanted to do, and I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to get there. And I wasn't connected to anybody really that would get me there. So, I left USA, and my dad got me a job at a boat shop in Universal City, Anchor Marine. And there I was working for now minimum wage, probably $5 or $7 an hour, whatever that was, maybe $8 at the max. So I'd taken a cut in pay, and dad got me this job at Anchor Marine. And then I decided, my grandfather, he was just going out all the time. He was at the VFW, or he was doing his thing. I decided to go back and move back with my dad a second time, and he lived in Seguin. And so I moved back in. Now I'm like 19, trying to, now I'm actually working in Universal City, so not driving as far, but he was living in Seguin. So I moved in with him in Seguin, and kind of said, okay, well, this is not bad, but I really need to make more money, so because I need to be out. And then something happened there, and that wasn't. I was like, oh, this is not working out. Maybe I need to move back out of my dad's house again. So I left my dad's house again and went back to my grandfather's. And I'm like, okay, I'm back. And, I was like, he's like, you need to figure out what you're doing, because this isn't working. You can't be doing this. And I'm like, I know. My dad said the same thing. Like, figure my shit out. So I was working at the boat shop, and then my dad met this guy who had an electrical business. And my dad asked him if he needed any help. And so hence came Jeff Coleman. And so he asked me what I do. I like, I don't, he goes, what do you know about electricity? I like, I know not to piss on an electric fence. I mean, I know that. Like, well, we can train you, we can teach you. I was like, okay, sure. I left there and went to go work in New Braunfels for Jeff Coleman at Coleman Electric, right there on Land in the Loop, and on the hill, kind of the hillside. Oh, there's a dog park there and all that stuff, but the building's still there. And I spent 3.5, almost 4 years with Jeff, and I'm like, just learning. I mean, I was digging ditches like in rock, in New Braunfels, in Canyon Lake. That my job was to run the underground line from the house to the transformer. It could be 40 feet, it could be 50 feet, it could be 70 feet. And there was no jackhammer, man. It was, you fucking rocked it out. I would come home, or I would, just hated it. And by this time, I'm still living at my grandfather's house, and like, this is not right. So I would stop by my uncle's house on the way, or Fridays for sure. I'd go there, have beers, and he would have like, look at my hands, man. I'm not supposed to be doing this. I have better things I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be digging ditches. And every time I was in digging that ditch, I could just hear my aunts, my little 2 aunts that would pick me up at Bouncer Guard. You see those boys right there, if you don't go to college, you're going to be digging ditches, and everybody, when their cars come up, are going to be watching you. Man, that just rang through my ears and rang through everything that I had, and how it just ruined me. I'm like, man, what did I do? I definitely took the wrong choice. And my uncle just kept telling me, fight it out, man. Just fight it out. And you can't quit. You're going to have to take it. So I did. And 2 years into the trade, Jeff asked me, or, they asked me if I could take this test. And that was the SBCCI, which was the Southern Building Code Congress. At that time, you needed to have a license in every municipality. It's not like the state licenses now. It's none of that. So we had the SBCCI licensing. And if I had to go in Seguin and work, then I had to go take a test in Seguin. If I wanted to go work in Shirts, I had to go take a test for that. If I wanted to go to, anywhere else, I had to go take a test. Especially if you came into San Antonio, they weren't going to let you reciprocate. And it wasn't happening that way. So being there for a while, I said, man, I need to make some more money. Finally, I think with my license, I got up to like $12 an hour. But I'm like, Jeff, I need to be making some more money, man. I need, this is Rob Journeyman now. And not like I knew everything. I can't just go in there and ask for the world because of, I'm now got a license, and I'm a couple of years in the trade. Now I know everything. No, that's not right. But I need a little bit more. So spending time with Jeff, and I learned a lot, and I learned, I finally got, like I talk about digging dishes. I was so excited when they pulled me off that trench line, and I got to nail up the boxes, in the house when I moved in the house, and I started being able to rough in, and then I was able to do a lot of that. That was like absolutely crazy. So kind of like moved me into another world. I started learning theories, wiring, all that shit. And that's what got me, ability to take that test and pass it. So looking upon all that stuff, fast forward a few years, and I just thought it was time to move and move on, and thank Jeff for, everything he did to put me that place. And I was just going to take a couple of weeks off and just hang out, because I was like, I just need a break. Not like I didn't have any benefits. I didn't have vacation time. You didn't have medical or any of that. That wasn't like one of those places. It was a family mom and pop shop. So there was none of that. And I was driving down 410 South going to my uncle's house, and there was this place called Dowson Electric. So I was like, what's that like? What's going on there? As I decided I wasn't really going to stop. And I was like, fuck it, man. Let's go try it. So went around the corner, back around WWI, and came up back out the access road, and pulled in. Went in there, and can I help you? I'm like, I'm just seeing if you have any positions open, or are you hiring? They're like, no, we're not hiring. Do you have any licensing? I'm like, well, yeah, I have a journeyman license in New Braunfels. And all of a sudden, it was a complete halt. And this guy, he goes, hold on. And he comes out of this office, and when he came around that office, his beard was like all the way down his belt buckle. Overalls, like I had never seen anything. I was like, what the fuck is that? I mean, he looked like a little gnome. Enter Greg Hayes. Dude, oh man, you talk about life-changing and how that went about. I mean, anybody knows Greg. Like, he's Ronnie's right-hand man. He was there for a long time and did everything. And, of course, Ronnie and Greg had their specific duties. It was Ronnie's company, so he wanted it ran that way. And so Greg says, hey, I actually need a journeyman in New Braunfels with a license. I've got a guy there. He'll do all the work. I just need you there with your license. I was like, okay. And he said, I'll pay you this. And oh my God, my eyes about jumped out of my head. I was like, no way. And he was like, yeah, but I just can't guarantee you any work after this job. I mean, it's like should take us about 8 months to finish. And I was like, that's fine. I mean, hey, that's cool. He goes, when can you start? I'm like, well, I'll start Monday. And he goes, fine, be here Monday. Holy shit. That turned into like 4 years of being with Dowson. And I learned a lot there. Grateful for the Dowsons. They did so much, and they were very appreciative. Like I truly think that was a big stepping stone for me with Greg and everybody that I met there, working there, learned a lot. That's when I got my first run into the service side of the business, being a service electrician. And kind of just moved through there. And then I got an opportunity working with a friend of mine named Wayne Dunt, who went to go work for TD Industries. And then he was running the construction side in there. He says, why don't you come work over here and start the service side? I was like, what? He had seen like what I'd been doing and trying to stay afloat at Dowson and trying to keep myself busy there, and not really relying so much on a lot of the service managers, but continuing to find my own stuff and writing notes down for customers and regaining my business with them. And I carried a notepad from everybody I did work for. And if we didn't have anything on the board, because in service, you only work if you have work orders. If you don't have any work orders and there's nothing on the board, you're going home and you're not getting paid. And that's not a fun deal. I mean, I got bills to pay. I'm now I'm really thinking about getting my place and moving the hell out. And so I was like, man, I got to keep myself busy. So I started tracking notes, clients. And here we go from that point. Now, a lot of that, as I went through there, I'm thinking it had to be 93, 94-ish at this point when I started with Dowson. And then, like I said, because I left Dowson in 98. So yeah. Anyway, and I had met someone in 95 because we got married in 98. So we dated for like 3 years or 2.5 years before we got married. And so I can somewhat justify the timeline there. Anyways, so at this point, I had done well enough that they decided to kept me way longer past the time that they were just going to keep me for that job, which Greg had said. And, I became one of the leaders on that service side and keeping things moving. So I decided, when Wayne offered that opportunity at TD Industries, I was like, man, I got to go do this. Like, that's pretty cool. So with that, I did. And hold on. So in between all that, in between all that, I needed to wait for all my background checks. TDI, they did hair follicle. They were serious, man. This was like serious business with them. So it was going to take like 2 or 3 weeks. And I didn't know that. And I already put my notice in at Dowson and I left. And I'm like, oh shit. I already got like a month away. They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I thought I was going to be able to start like tomorrow. They're like, no. So I was like, okay. And now I just quit. I don't have a really thing else. So I got to find something like quick. So there was this little storage unit that had like Bride Electric in there, and I'm like, okay, I'll go apply there. I mean, it's only be a temporary thing. I'm not going to stay for the rest of my, I'm just going to be there. Just need to go to work. There's this little blonde girl sitting at the desk, and I was like, hey, I'm looking for an application. She goes, well, we're not hiring. I'm like, well, can I just fill one out anyways? You don't even know. That's not, you got to take an application. She's like, fine. Threw me the application, and I was like, okay. Joking about it, because now, believe it or not, that was in what, 90, that was in 98, because I left Dallas and I was going to TDIs. Little did I know who that girl was. I didn't know her, but whatever. I'll tell you in a minute. I, of course, didn't get on there. So then another company was Tim Smoot. I mean, I immediately got on there. And I wasn't there like, I knew I wasn't going to be there very long. I just need to get my shit done so I make paychecks. And then I met a few people there, a few friends there, still friends today, some maybe, some not. But I got introduced there. And by the time all that was settling in and I was ready to go, boom, going on at TDI. So left there, went to TD Industries, and on came the onset of change for me. Now I'm in a real corporation, a real company as a service tech. And I went through this phase of not understanding, like, no, you're guaranteed 40 hours a week. Wait, what? What does that mean? I'm like, you're guaranteed 40 hours a week. So if you go over overtime, anything before 7 a.m. is overtime, and anything after 5 o'clock is overtime. But you're guaranteed your 40. So no matter what, if you went before those hours, you're getting paid overtime. And if you went after the hours, you're getting paid overtime. It didn't matter if you worked 1 hour a week, you were getting the other 39 guaranteed. So it was like a salary. And I was like, holy shit, really? And so, okay, well, then the stress was off of me so much of trying to get out. But then the stress was on for another reason. Like, okay, now I'm here to help this service department go. And so at that time, it was only me. I'm the only electrician in San Antonio at TD Industries in a service van. And so I was there to support all the mechanical change outs when they did, they're replacing the units instead of subbing all the work out to other electrical contractors. Now it was just being done turnkey in-house, and it was only me. And then I got to use some of the other apprentices or other technicians tell me, like, pull wire or run conduit or do any of that. I'm like, okay. So I did that for a couple of years, and I was like, okay, I'm getting burned out. We need to get some help. Or I'm saying about a year. And I'm like, I need to get somebody else in here. I need some help. And so I recruited a buddy of mine named Jesse, and I said, look, dude, you need to leave Smoot. You're not going to do anything there. Come with me over here. It's really good. I think it's really going to be for your family. You're going to see what it's like. I really had to convince him because he did not like change, right? He was not about change. And so finally got him convinced to do that. So that's where we went. And that's what we were able to do. So got him in, and we went through that, growing the service side of the business. And then we just started getting more work and more work. And I would literally take another set of clothes in my van. I would change into like some sort of sales presentable attire. And then I would go and look at the work, and I would write it all up, and I'd give them I'd go to the van, and I'd sit in the van, and I'd put it all together. And of course, we didn't have like cell phones like the way we do now, man. I mean, it's like, no. So I'd call the supply houses, how much for this, how much for this, how much is this, how much is this? And I would write all that down, and I would sit in my van and write it all up. I'd get a proposal. I would send it, call in dispatch, and 641 dispatch. Karen, go ahead. Poor Karen, love her. So then I would get, proposal number and all that stuff. And on this carbon paper proposal, you keep one, you tear that black carbon off, and then you give the other one to the customer, and you save this one. So I'd go back in, and I'd say, here's your proposal. They're like, oh, already? I'm like, yep. Like, oh, great. When can you do it? When can y'all start? I'm like, well, we can start right now. Well, okay, really? I'm like, if you sign it, we'll get it started. They signed it. I went back to the van, changed into my clothes with my service tech clothes, and I came back up, and they're like, you're doing the work? I'm like, oh no, that was my brother. We're twins. Oh, how cool. I'm like, no, it was me. I'm just kidding. But, that's how I got stuff started, and went, and just being aggressive and like trying to shape into what I wanted. And, being at TDI for 9-10 years, I was there, and, somebody either had to die or retire, or for you to move up. And it was very, very obvious. And it was just hard. It was hard to move, and I wasn't going to move, but I was doing everything I can to stay there and work and keep it going. And then I said, no, I've learned already a lot, and I need to move. So, there was an issue there also. I left. And so between me and TD, we severed our partnership ways and took off. And I went to Brant. And I worked Brant. I was the account manager there. Started off as an account manager. And so I just started kind of learning. And I was shit I didn't even know, but I was figuring it out. Like, I was not letting this pass me up. And I was hired by a man named Kevin Mathis. And then I met Mike Coy. And then we had a whole bunch of other guys in there. And then I met Eric. And then I brought Jesse with me to Brant after he was with me at TDI. And then I think that's where a lot of it started flourishing up, because now I had already learned in the 9-10 years I was at TDI what it was going to take. And so fighting through all that as an account manager now, just kind of rising through those ranks and building the teams and, managing more guys and managing the business. And then one day, Mr. Mathis left, he quit. And then I'll never forget it. I was walking down the hallways from one side of Brant to the other. It would be like walking from service side of the building to the construction side of the building. And I'm walking down the hallway and, hey, congratulations, Eddie, congrats, way to go. I'm like, what congratulations for what? What are you congratulating me for? Well, apparently an email went out that they were like, hey, Eddie's been promoted to special projects and service manager. He will now be running service and special project. I was like, I didn't get that notification, man. I'm like, I didn't even talked about it. It just happened. So there I was thrust into that. So then I was running both service and special projects, which was crazy, man, at the time. I mean, we talking about, oh my God, just slammed. I didn't have a life. I mean, somebody called and said, hey, let's go out and, let's go have lunch. I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like, there's no way. I was just about to get married at this point to Kim. I'd already gotten divorced and from my first marriage. Then, by the way, little did I know, like I was just telling you, that little girl that gave me the application at McBride was Kim. I mean, you fast forward the wild ride, how I met this girl in 98, and then here I am gonna marry this girl in 2011. Like, what the, how did that even come about, right? And it's just crazy. But there's another story to that too. So as we're kind of like pushing through, it's just crazy shit started happening. I just started building my life and trying to build for, the family I was gonna, have. And so just crazy stuff happened and just started figuring it out. So my ambitions were like what I didn't know or wanted to do to all of a sudden forming in front of me and then taking those opportunities and building them. And it's just the way it is. And so that's how I grew up in San Antonio. I've moved through San Antonio, done business in here my entire life, working through it. I went to Burbank High School. My parents, my mom worked for Tesoro Petroleum. My mom also worked for City Corps. My dad worked for law enforcement. He did his thing. My dad was like 6'6". He's just a man you didn't want to fuck with. I sure the hell didn't want to mess with him. And, his influence on the way I developed and shaped me or what turned me into the person today. And I think a lot of that were in the decisions and my journeys that I did. And I don't even know, right? I don't even know how it did, but the Lord has always put something in front of me, a door, an opening to be there, what that is. And I don't even know. So I that's kind of one of those secret things you just see when you get a feeling and there's an overpowering person in front of you, that it works. I mean, like I said, the doors have opened for me in numerous ways I don't have answers to. I just know they're there. And if something happens, I need to look at it, because somebody's putting that there's a divine something there just protecting me, and there's an angel. And so that's when I knew there was like something else popped up, and I was like, okay, this I got to look at this opportunity. And as I started moving my way through different ranks, and I started organizations in town from the ground up, negotiating lease spaces, hiring personnel, getting sales started, bidding, estimating, winning projects, winning clients. And that's when stuff started getting me into the business of understanding that. And I think when you do that, and when other people start seeing it and they start taking notice, they watch you from afar. And I feel that's what was happening. People were watching from afar, and some took a chance on wanted to talk, and we talked in length a lot of times, and then, just didn't pull the trigger. And I get that. I mean, at this point, I'm like making my way through the ranks, and I'm doing things that I need to do and trying to find unique opportunities and unique clients. And that's kind of the way it was. And so by doing that, I think that's what shaped me into being where I'm at. And I've brought people with me along the way to help me be successful. And just like my dad said back in the beginning, I don't need to know how to do it, but I need this people smart enough to do it. And when I started hiring the right people for the positions that I needed and what we needed to do, we just kept growing. And I think at one point I got hired by a Canadian company, and that was probably, it was great. I mean, anything that you thought an electrical company could do, they did it all. So that in itself was great. And I was able to hire the best team I've ever assembled. I'm talking exceptional. We were moving things we were moving the needle. We were doing things great. I had great teams in front of me. I had friends with me. And so what we were doing, we did together. And I think that was a lot of figuring that out. And we did a lot. And then all of a sudden, COVID hit. Man, that took a turn for the worst. Canadians were freaking out. They just couldn't handle it. And we're doing business like crazy. Texas is really not stopping. We had a lot of work going on, but they decided to pull the trigger and say, you know what, we're gonna just shut this thing, start shutting this thing down. All right. Well, I'd already worked for another company. I'd already worked for another VP. And I mean, 30 minutes after me leaving that company, I already had another job within 30 minutes after talking to George. He was like, be in my office Friday. I have an opportunity. And I was like, okay, that works, I guess, right? So once again, never burn any bridges, always keep things open, do your best, and know that when you make the right choices and do the hardest work you can, you're doing everything you can. And that's the way I've lived my life the entire way, is just be proactive, be productive. The truth is expensive. Don't be afraid to say the things that are there, because it's just going to get you in trouble if you try to hide it or lie about it. You gotta find the ways to fix it before it gets worse. And by lying about it, there's too many things going to happen. And I've seen a lot of things in my career where I've asked my managers that were working under me, hey, what's going on here? What do you know about this? Because I'm getting calls. They're like, oh, no, it's good. We've got it under control. It was just a purchasing issue. Really? Are you sure? Yeah, no, I got it. We got it. Come to find out, that was a purchasing issue because they never issued the PO. And guess what? And when you don't do things right and you lie about it, and I'm telling everybody, no, we're good. I'm reporting up. What happens then? We don't have a lot of trust. And that's when you don't have a lot of trust, is when you figure out that those things just aren't doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. And I think that's what got that into trouble, was because those are times when you can't sit there and not tell the truth. So I had to make changes with that, work in the business, and work and move around that. Always just tell the truth, man. Just like, yeah, you're going to get an ass chewing, or you're going to get in trouble, or something's going to happen. But if you don't try to fix the things right, then you can't do it. I mean, you can't do it by yourself unless you figure out what the hell you're doing, and people telling you the truth, so you have to know what's going on so you can make the right decisions and make the right choices to fix it. So a lot of that has led into me going through organizations, finding my other way to do what I was doing. And, once again, moving through the ranks, because I had ambitions, and as a director of operations in my past and trying to move things through, everything was happening. And then once again, the Lord put a door in front of me, and it happened, right? I just saw this guy and seen for a while, and we started talking, and like 8 months later or whatever, the opportunity came for me to rejoin Grant and rejoin as a business development manager, which, oh my God, like that was like everything to me to be able to do that. And it still is. And let me tell you, the challenges and what led me here have been my most challenging things, or I should say, it's been the most opportunistic things I've ever had to do, right? Because you have to find opportunities. You have to find the right opportunities. Going from somebody who's running organizations and having operational background and being able to make all the decisions and choices, I don't do that anymore. I'm relying on putting food on the table for a lot of people. Like, I'm trying to turn what I have into work so that we could put food on the table for our people. I've got to be turning a needle to push what we have. And that converts into relationships. And a lot of my relationships that I've had in the past are now I'm not able to target those relationships because either there's somebody else's portfolio here, or, they're not in the business that we're there. So I've now turned to creating my own new heading and passage of relationships, which is great because I love a good challenge, but it's also something that a lot of it can't wait, right? You have to be turning something over. You have to be getting stuff in, and whether I'm sending emails and setting up meetings and trying to get opportunities and pushing my way through, always remember something can happen and just like screw it up. Like, it can a bomb to just go right at it, or something just destroy it. Oh, I had a meeting. I've been waiting for this meeting for 2 weeks. And the customer said, hey, I'm so sorry. I got a last minute change. We're gonna have to put this off. Well, I've been waiting for this thing for since we set up 2 weeks ago. Like, what are you going to do? Like, this is not cool, but shit happens, right? You can't control their business. You have to work on that and take it and get that next meeting set up and keep going with it. So what led me into this business were all my pivotal experiences, right? Everything that I've done in the past to get here, Like I said, people are watching, they're watching from afar. If you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing and busting your ass and giving 100%, not lying about it, not cheating anybody out of it, and offering your clients something that they need to have and not what they want to have, and you find the solutions that are there, I mean, you should be able to do anything you want, right? You should be able to challenge yourself to be able to do that, and challenge yourself to understand what it is that you're doing. Well, I know what I'm doing. My biggest thing is now, what I want is I want to be referred. As much as I spend time with clients, I need a lot of my partners in the business, friends, and networking capability. When they're saying, hey, I need something for mechanical or electrical or plumbing, I'm like, hey, man, you need to call Eddie. Call Eddie at Brant. This guy's good. I recommend him. That's what you should be using. That right there for me is more than anything that I could do. And I've been asked, hey, well, how can we help you? Do you need, can we get you a gift card or something? I'm like, no. I don't need any gift cards. I don't need any monetary supplement. What I would like is a referral, because your referral will do far more for me than a gift card, than money, monetary. Like, I get it and I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. I do. And I've been told this many times. Hey, man, I can split some of my tap with you. And I'm like, no, keep your commissions. That's you're doing that, right? I get it. But you give me a referral for the next one, man, you give me something in there, I'm good. That's how I'll get it. And that way I can help you maybe next time. Maybe I have a project where I might need you on, and we can work together on something else later in the future, and I can get that in. Well, now we're working together, and now we're doing things that are helping and pushing our needles to be better than we can. I get it. And our hard work is going to get us to where we are, but the culture of how you built yourself and your character of who you are will take far more than anything else. It'll take you to places you've never thought you've been. And so the things I've been able to accomplish are being able to have those trusts within people and developing friends and family and relationship, and opportunities are there. The trust, knowing that I'm doing everything I can to get it. And there's a lot of stuff that operates in the organization that I still don't know about. It's only been a short time that I've been back, and I'm having to learn all the nuances of where I'm going to and navigate through the systems, and just like everybody else, navigate through the changes that we're getting. That's okay. Do it. Like, don't fuck around and cry about it. Just get up and let's go. I don't want anybody relying to making sure they're waiting on me. I need to make sure I'm waiting on them. So think about these kind of things and how this helps you, what you're trying to do in your life and where to get you to. I'm thankful for the things that I've been able to do. And now you're getting into a life where I have a work-life balance, which never had before. I've been going almost 15, 20 years straight of just constant, right? Just constant go. And so these times that, my weekends now are doing what I want to do and, have some fun with the family. Either we go to the lake, we take the boat out, or I've got friends we're on a boat thing with. So we do that, or we go to the coast with the family and we spend some time at North Padre and get to fish and just get to relax. I think there's so much that you need to do. You need that downtime, and you need to be able to work on you and be able to guide your life through that. So those are some of my hobbies, is like just spinning out, fishing and relaxing and being on the water, or, sometimes I just love getting out and work. Everybody says it, but I can go out there, cut the grass or do some yard work and give me 30 minutes of that, and I can relax, just chill out, and I'm good. Hey, okay, I've done another check off the list. Just done. Get it out of the way. Let's go do something else. And so if these things can help you do that, then so be it. I want to think about what my life goals are for next. My next life goals are just getting better at continue to engage with people around me. First and foremost, I really need to rekindle my relationship with the man upstairs. I'm not saying I'm past that. I'm one of those, I say my prayers, and I say it all the time, and I say a few words here and there, and I pray for the, forgiveness, and I ask for, things that I think they're just things to help me, guide me. Pray to my dad all the time, my grandparents all the time. What are there? What are they putting in front of me that I'm not seeing? What are the things that I need to look for? So I'm really focusing on trying to rekindle that and making sure I have the Lord back in my life a lot more than I did, because, I think it's true when I say there's divine interventions in areas that they keep putting doors in front of me. And this last door that wasn't put in front of me was for a reason. And I need to work my ass off to make sure that I do everything I can in this time to do it and do it right. And so as much as I'm changing and learning in this past year, I want to make sure that what's next for me are the decisions to be made of driving my family life to the next stage. And whether that's getting back in operations or having some part of that, I don't know. Right now, I want to focus on doing what I'm doing and being the best at what I am doing for now, for sure. So I definitely thank you. Like, it's just kind of an introduction to who I am, what we're doing, what this is about. And like I said, it's Alamo City Ambitions. What got you here, what keeps you here, what it's like doing work in San Antonio. For me, I can always tell you that it's knowing the people here and growing up here. I mean, I know they send people from all over the world here, and people come in from out of town, and there's only a few people I can think of that have stepped foot in this town and really started changing and making a difference fast. And you do that in the good ways. And I'm so proud of them for doing that. And there's, like I said, there's a few of them, and hopefully I get them on the show and they can come in and join. And I'd like to ask them those questions of what it's like for that. So I really want to thank you for joining Alamo City Ambitions. I think that it's going to be a great podcast. I appreciate you listening to who I am, and getting ready for some interviews to start popping up. So as we get ready to go into the week, the weekend's over today, so we're going to start the new week tomorrow. And I'm just ready to get out there and see what we're going to do together as a team. And if there's anything I can do for you, if there's some connections that you're looking for that you don't know, please feel free to reach out. Once again, you can reach me at 15. My work email is eddie.fischer@brant.us. My email for the show is alamocitya, just the letter A, @outlook.com. Once again, you can find us on our YouTube channel. You can find us on Apple. Feel free to reach out to us, or if you want to be on, I'd love to have you. So one thing I will always say when I leave is, if you want to get in, you got to stand out. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Enjoy your week.